why are we here? Seriously, why are we here? I mean, why did we even open our mouths? Because the guy sitting right over here, Josh Pastner, was trying to tell the world 2.5 months ago, hey, boys, let me tell you, Duke and Carolina get to the Final Four, and there's a bunch of good teams in this league.
Well, first of all, you're right. If there's ever a time to get the Powerball numbers from me, this is the time to do it. So, no, I mean, look, the bottom line is when we played Carolina twice, we played them twice this year.
Yeah.
And both times we played well, but they just kicked our backside. I mean, they just kicked our backside. And I tell you what, I was like, man, I thought we played well, but we didn't have any chance to play with them. And I was like, man, this team is really, really good. What happened was each time after they played us, they went, like they lost at Miami and at Wake Forest by 30. So, but
they just circled the date. They saw the pass there and said, hey, I don't know if we're winning a game, but we're going to circle the date with the Jackets.
I don't know what it was because we had I don't know if it was because the last couple of years we had beaten them a couple times, and I don't know what it was, but I said, man, that starting five is as good as anybody. And so they're really, really good, obviously, and they're playing as well as anybody right now. How many teams in this tournament, if you thought all 60, how many teams in all the entire country can say they could have 3 players that can score over 30 points? RJ scored over 30, RJ Davis, Caleb Love. Brady Manick versus Baylor was on pace to score over 40.
Right.
Which is just incredible.
Then you have Baycott with a double-double inside.
And so their starting five is lethal. It would be an incredible storybook ending for Coach K to walk off on a national championship. But if you just take it on the basketball side, I just think right now Carolina's I think they're going to win the whole thing.
All right.
I really do.
Outside of you playing Nostradamus, I want to get to what we've learned about ACC basketball. And here's why I was excited to have you on the show. Because nobody is more thoughtful about the landscape of all of it. And, yeah, I know you're coaching in the ACC, but you've also coached in other leagues, and you grew up playing out west, and you're from Texas, and all these other things. So what did we learn about the ACC, and what were you seeing in January, not just Carolina Duke, but you mentioned the whole league, which, by the way, ended up performing pretty well in the NCAA tournament, the 5 teams that win, and the 2 in the NIT did respectably, right? So what were you seeing that none of us were talking about?
Well, here's my deal on the whole thing, because I was talking about Miami as well too. I mean, people were sleeping on Miami, and I remember being on your guys' set even back in October in Charlotte talking about Notre Dame. Why aren't more people talking about Notre Dame?
Right.
I mean, they had a whole team back. Let me say this. Yes, Coach K's moving out. Coach Williams, even though you never know, because he's going to pull a Tom Brady on us.
Who's that, Roy?
Coach K.
No,
Yeah,
I don't think we're getting Tom Brady. I don't know.
But anyway,
the man needs a dog.
Yeah,
Man's going to get a dog. He's going to be fine.
Here's the thing. And I know this, and I've said this to a bunch of the coaches in the league, and they all think I'm a little wacky when I say it.
I've heard you on the coaches conference call.
Yeah.
They kind of think you're like,
but hear me out on this.
Office Z
why.
down there.
But let me tell you why. Because for the ACC almost only had 3 teams in the tournament.
Right.
Think about that. If A&M beats Tennessee, Notre Dame's out. If Virginia Tech loses, they're out. That's 3 teams in the tournament from the ACC.
Okay.
That can't happen in this league. This league is too good for that to happen. So you say, well, everyone just says, well, why don't you just, you got to win the games in November. That's like the marketing department just saying, hey, if you win games, well, the fans will come. Okay, well, then why do you have a marketing department? Just the answer, go win games. The parity now in this day and age from 200, the team that's ranked 250 to 50 is the same. There's not that much difference anymore. So my solution, just saying, well, win the games in November, I get that. That is the deal. But I'm looking at more of a solution base. My solution is in the ACC, let's take out the gray area and take out the non-conference games. Everybody play home and home twice. Because hear me out. Listen to me. The most teams the ACC has gotten in was when it was 16 and then 18. It hasn't got that many teams in going to a 20-game schedule. It's not going backwards. It's going to stay at 20. My thing is it should move. If it's not working at 20, let's add games because we're not going the other way. Add games. Everybody play twice. It's better for TV, better for ticket sales. You take out the gray area. You still have the Big Ten ACC Challenge, and you still have a 2-game MTE. And if somebody doesn't like that, I would say, okay, well then if November is going to be judged on everything for this league and for getting teams in the tournament, then let's move the non-conference games back in January. I mean, we've got to find a solution on that because, again, just because what you do in November can literally just ruin the league for the rest of the year. And hey, we've not done our job either. Many teams haven't won what you need to win in November, but it's easier said than just go win those games.
Let me give you two scenarios. I like your idea, by the way.
Do you really mean that? Or?
I do, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Because I think what we do is, I think the country should get together and say, hey, the Big Ten's not allowed 9 ever again until they finally win this tournament. They've not won this tournament since the year 2000. Let's cap them at 5. That opens up 4 spots. So that becomes the juggling act, all right? No disrespect, Big Ten, but you guys haven't won it since 2000. Get a clue. And you got a great league. I don't know what happens to you in March. You just tank it.
Now be careful. Pastner went to Arizona.
I don't care where he went to school. I don't care if he went to Michigan.
25 years ago yesterday, we won the national championship.
And you were on the floor. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I like the idea of pushing back some quality. I mean, we get the ACC Big Ten Challenge in November and December. And I think it gets lost, in my opinion, because football is the dominant sport and you get great matchups. And for junkies like us who watch every college basketball game, hey, we're into it. But I think a lot of people lose sight of those games. And guess what? It sets a narrative for your league, whether you dominated or get dominated.
Right.
I do like when you give me the SEC Big 12
in January.
That kind of breaks up the schedule, and you get some matchups. Hey, it's kind of cool to see Kentucky go to Kansas, right? It's kind of cool to see Baylor play Alabama or whatever the case may be. I like that idea. So I think you're on to something.
And you think about it that hey, because of the ACC, if you're going to have guys leaving early for the draft. And because of the portal, well, maybe teams aren't better and start hitting on all cylinders till later, till January. And so if everything's going to be judged in November, we got to be careful about that. And so that's just something to think about in the big picture. And I mean, look, I've said this, Wake Forest at 7, they were 13-7 in the ACC. San Francisco, nothing against San Francisco or the WCC, but they had 6 or 7 losses. They got an at-large and Wake Forest did. That can't happen. And so that's my point is how do we find a way to come up? And I keep saying, hey, let's play more league games because the less non-conference, the less people can just drill you and set the narrative and have all the different numbers and all that.
And those are games that your fan base wants to say. I mean, no disrespect that you've got roast beef A&M coming in on a Tuesday night and you win by 45. I would much rather play Wake Forest.
But let me say this as a head coach. I would rather play Duke then I would rather play a bye game. And you might say, why would you say that? You know why? Because those bye games, people don't get it. It's not 2000 anymore. It's not 1990. The team that's ranked 275 in the country, there's not that much difference from 25. There's really not. And if you get beat, it's demoralizing. The fan base is ready. If you lose to Duke or someone in the ACC, it's an ACC game.
And that game makes you better.
It makes you better, and everyone's looking for more ways to get revenue, more ticket sales. People are going to come to more ACC games.
All right, I want to go to the business of college basketball. There is a scenario where a team that played last weekend potentially has 16 guys on scholarship today, maybe 17, or at least that's what their roster would look like if everybody shows up in the fall. How big a concern for you and your colleagues is roster management right now in college basketball after the COVID years, now going back to 13? And by the way, there's a boat coming down the river here, or a train. It's a train
coming down.
Good luck for us.
Yeah.
But so what's your biggest concern right now about the landscape of college basketball based on the COVID year, the rosters, things like that?
Well, I think a couple things. I think number one is if you talk to some of the coaches who are older, when I say older, who, coming more towards the end, they would tell you that the portal has made it exhausting for them. Now, as you know, I'm a high energy guy. I got a lot of energy, but the portal it's exhausting because it's speed dating. Because what you're doing is you're trying to find the kids and you've got to watch them quickly. And then if you haven't called them within 10 minutes, they've already got 100 calls.
Right.
And so it is roster management. Now, you can sit and complain about it, but that train, as we've just talked about a train, has left the station. And there's no handlebars. Like, you can't hang on. Like, that thing has gone.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And it's roster management year in, year out. Right. And everyone talks about the NBA. Everyone talks about the NBA. The difference with the NBA is, and I know the guys get paid, but there's contracts. There's contracts, so you know that when someone's going to leave you, or there's a free agency. In college, you just don't know at this point. So it's roster management. It's just constant roster management.
By the way, pretty rude of the SEC train to come in here and disrupt the ACC network. We own the Final Four. I mean, I know A&M lost last night to the runner-up in the runner-up tournament, but that was rude. That SEC train, get them out of here.
Hey, I want to tell you guys a true story. You were talking about Tony Bennett yesterday, about the Virginia hiring him yesterday, right? On the whenever it was 2009. True story. We were in California. It was at Lute Olson, Coach Olson. We were out recruiting. It was some breakfast place at a pancake house. It might have been the Waffle House. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, wait, you'd remember the Waffle House in Atlanta.
Waffle House, but we were at a pancake. Craig Littlepage was trying to get Coach Olson to come be their head coach at Virginia in 2009. Coach Olson's wife at the time, Christine Olson, was a big Virginia grad. I was sitting with Coach Olson. We were at the breakfast table. He was talking to Mr. Craig Littlepage and working out all the details on the napkin. And Coach was he was a little upset some things at Arizona. He was about to go to take the Virginia job. Honest to God, I was sitting there across from the table. He was writing things out. Craig Littlepage. In the end, I think Coach, he went back to, he wasn't really ever going to leave. But he and Craig Littlepage were getting to the final parts of negotiations about going to Virginia. This is before they hired Tony. Now, listen, it's worked out for everybody, obviously.
The anniversary was yesterday.
Yes, yeah. I know. Yeah. And so I remember when I was listening to you guys, I remember that part when Coach and I were sitting in a breakfast place, and he and Mr. Craig Littlepage were talking about the Virginia job, working out details on a napkin. And but fortunately he turned it down for Coach's sake. He needed to stay at Arizona, and obviously worked out for Virginia with Tony Bennett. But it just shows you how you never know in these things. Things can change, and and all that stuff.
Tell you what, more story time with Josh Pastner coming up next.
Hey, what other coach? My sideburns are so long, I didn't have a chance to cut them. It's even the mic thing here gets lost.
It really is eye-catching. It really didn't look like squirrels running down the side of your face at all.
Your sideburns don't have a Twitter account. There is something seriously
that's
wrong.
It. Your sideburns do need a Twitter account. More with Josh Pastner coming up. We're live at Jackson Square in New Orleans.